On, guys. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. And today I had an interesting topic that just kind of came across my desk that I wanted to run by you guys and get your thoughts on this. Apparently, there's this boxer named Israel, I want to say Israel Adesanya. And he apparently has a girlfriend who feels that she deserves half of his stuff. She literally is apparently, according to Israel, again, this is all according to him and what he said on his Instagram page, right? I didn't actually speak to her. He literally claims that she wants half of his assets after, they've been dating for a few years. And I thought this was really interesting because, this conversation about love and money, that's one that you've heard me and my wife have on Pillow Talks. We talked about, different topics related to marriage and money or relationships and money. I'm going to admit, I wasn't really clear on exactly why this woman deserves half of his stuff. I'm not clear on, what she actually did to earn that kind of money. I'm not clear. I know that Israel, and when I looked him up, he's apparently a very good fighter. He's a fighter in MMA or cage fighting or whatever it is. And he spent a lot of years in the gym, preparing to be a great fighter. He spent a lot of years of sacrifice. He took a lot of hits to the head, probably got some brain damage. That cage fighting will jack you up. And and she didn't do any of that. She didn't do any of that. And it's funny because I think people make the argument that um there's some sort of emotional support element that makes her entitled to half of his assets. And I'd be curious to know what you guys think. Give me a yes or no, yes or no. If a girlfriend is a ride or die, if she's really been with a guy for a long time, if she's been really committed to him and been in a relationship with him, do you think that she deserves half of his stuff? What do y'all think? Do you think that there's any legitimacy to that claim, or do you think it's BS? Give me a yes or no in the chat if you feel that she should get half, and then give me a no if you think that she should not. I want to say good morning to Zeus and Carmen Chambers and Stephen W. Levette says no. Okay, I'm looking for a yes. I'm looking for somebody. Okay, I see some no's. Let's see. I'm watching you says no. All right, so I see. I'm looking. Brenda Stringer, Brown is beautiful says no. I see a lot of no's. And then I see a hell no. All right, so I'm looking to see. Okay, he used to say he's not black. He looks black, but he is Chinese, not black. Oh, Israel Adesanya. Well, I mean, while you can certainly say that that hanging out with the snow bunnies can get you in trouble, the truth of the matter is that first of all, people have a right to date who they want, but then also I think abuse can come in any relationship. And not to say that she's automatically abusive because she wants what she thinks she can get, but I do think that this lends itself to an interesting conversation about relationships and money. And so, what I'm going to do is kind of tell you guys or break this down. I'm going to put on my finance professor hat and talk to you guys about something that I was discussing this weekend. We did our latest Black Wealth Summit in Denver. I'm sorry, not Denver, Dallas. Well, I'm in Dallas right now. And we were in Dallas doing a Black Wealth Summit. And we talked about asset protection. We talked about what it means to protect your money, what it means to protect your assets. And one of the things that happens when you talk about asset protection is people talk about things like estate plans, trusts, LLCs, insurance, things like that. Well, one of the things about asset protection that isn't talked about very much, you won't see this much in most finance books, is you also have to protect your assets from people. The thing about getting money, the thing about having something to lose, is that when you get money, you become a big target. A lot of guys we get excited because suddenly all the pretty girls want to be around you. Well, a lot of times they want to be around you because they like what you got. They're trying to get what you got. And it's not to say that only women do this. I mean, men do this too. When a woman's got something men want, the fellas all surround that woman like, hey girl, how can I get a little piece of what you got? Right. And so ultimately, this is not just a woman versus man kind of thing. This is really a human being thing. This is really something that describes human nature. Human beings, when you have resources, money, or whatever the case may be, people want to be around you. People want to be your friend. I can tell you, as a person who's had money for a long time, a lot of people, I can pick it up very quickly. There are people that just want to be around me because I can do something for them. And I don't blame them. I totally understand, in the sense that I get it, that you are looking for a come up, you're looking for an opportunity. Maybe you feel like I'm the person that can help you do that. And so it's not your fault, in my opinion, that you may want something from me. At the same time, it is my responsibility to protect what I have and to only share my resources and my assets with people who are going to reciprocate, right? People that are trustworthy and decent people. Because you can make that mistake. I've made that mistake before. I've actually been, sued by an ex-girlfriend before to get money that I didn't feel like she deserved. I didn't think it was fair, but it's life. Things happen. And truth be told, one of the things I can tell you, and this is really for any, let me ask y'all a question real quick. How many of you plan to be wealthy one day? Give me a yes in the chat. All the future wealth builders. I was just in Dallas hanging out with some Black wealth builders for our Black Wealth Summit. How many of you consider yourself to be a wealth builder? How many of you are going to be rich one day? How many of you have a master plan? How many of you are investing right now? Give me a yes. All the investors, all the wealth builders say yes. All the intelligent Black people say something. All right. So if you are in that category, one of the things that you have to understand is that one of the most important components of building wealth is the ability to protect what you have. If you can't protect it, you might as well not build it, because you're simply acquiring wealth so that someone else can eventually have it. And there are people like that. There are people who say, I don't want to do the work to go and build wealth. I don't want to learn how to invest. I don't want to take the time and put in the labor necessary to build something. I don't want to go spend hours in the gym or in the boxing ring, get my face knocked off in order to make money. I'm just going to sit back and wait for somebody else that's already done all the work. I'm going to sit back and look cute in my little dress. I'm not going to take a single finance class. Think about this. There's a lot, and this isn't really, I'm not saying this in a way that I want to sound anti-woman, because most good women don't think this way. Good women don't think this way, but y'all know that there are good and bad women. Y'all know this. Give me a yes if you understand where I'm coming from. So there are women who say, I don't want to do no work. I don't want to take no classes. I don't want to make no sacrifices. I don't want to. I'm not going to try to. I don't want to. I don't want to be a boxer or a basketball player or whatever. Right? And, WNBA doesn't even pay that well. So instead, I'm just going to sit here and look cute, and I'm going to take advantage of some guy who is emotionally disciplined enough to build an empire, but not emotionally and sexually disciplined enough to know a vixen heist when he sees one. He's not emotionally disciplined enough to understand that you can't just trust a big butt and a smile. He's going to lay down with any cute girl, any jump off that serves him in the bedroom and make himself vulnerable, which will give me an opportunity to sneak in and take everything he's got. And this can not just, this doesn't just come in the situation with Israel Adesanya. That's one way that these heists might take place. You look at his girlfriend right there. She's kind of pretty, I guess. Not my type. Not my type. I ain't gonna lie. I don't really swim in the snow that often. Not even that often ever. I'm not even say that often. I do it sometimes. No, I don't. I've never dated a white woman. I think I liked a white girl when I was 15, and then her white father basically told her she couldn't talk to me anymore. And then after that, I remember my father said, "That's why you reject them before they reject you," which I guess that comes from his pain of rejection. But either way, not to say I took on that philosophy, but I remember hearing my mother when I was 16, and she talked about how difficult it is for Black women to find a certain kind of man. And I remember at that moment, at 16 years old, I swore that any woman that I'm with is going to look like my mother. She's going to be Black. I'm not going to, I'm just not interested in that. So no disrespect to you if you're white. It's just, you're not my type. We're not going to be together ever. But the thing is that that's not the only way that people can sort of slither into your life and take your assets. You might have something like a rape accusation. Think about this. I want you to process this. So you're a rich, famous guy. maybe not even famous, just rich, and you get with somebody and you expect it to be a one night stand, and they have other plans. So then let's say they accuse you of something. Well, unfortunately, the crazy thing about this world we live in, because we live in a pretty feminized society, is that people are going to believe your accuser just because she made the accusation. People are going to believe you, especially if you're black. People are going to believe your accuser just because she made the accusation. You're going to become toxic because you were accused by a woman of being a predator. You may not be a predator. It doesn't matter to some people. Some people will literally behave as if you did it just because somebody said it. So then what happens is that when you got something to lose, when you're like Israel Adesanya, who is a MMA world champion, apparently, I've never seen his fights, but it looks like he's really good at what he does. You have a lot to protect. You have a reputation that's going to be ruined. Now you've become toxic. What corporation is going to want to do a sponsorship deal with somebody who's accused of doing something like that? Right? What entities are going to want to deal with you? They're going to avoid you just in case the accusation is true. So what do you do then? Well, the lawyers understand. The lawyers are smart, and the vixens are smart. They know that you'll write a check. You'll write a big $5-10 million check just to make it go away, just to make the accusation go away. So I want you to think about this. This means even if you're completely innocent, even if you did nothing wrong, even if you would never hurt a fly, none of that matters. So what does that say? Well, it would be nice if we had a world that was fair, but we don't live in that world. We live in a world where black men are seen in a certain light, and black men we have to deal with that, man. It ain't right. It ain't fair. I hate it. It drives me crazy, but that's life. And what that also means is that one of the wealth protection mechanisms that have to be adopted by any black man who wants to have a dollar or a nickel in his pocket and keep it is you have to think about what types of women you even allow in your company. You can't just allow any old chick up in your bedroom. You can't allow any old woman in your life. Because here's the other thing too. Here's one reality that you have to understand as well. My father, I'm gonna lay this out. Actually, before I do that, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. By the way, this podcast is on Spotify. So if you have Spotify, just look up Boyce Watkins, and you can find the Dr. Boyce breakdown on Spotify. And also, there's some free resources on wealth building on my website, boycewatkins.com. I'm a finance PhD, so I think about wealth and money all the time. And I was just in Dallas. We did a Black Wealth Summit. It was amazing. It was totally sold out, totally packed house. We did a lot of team building exercises, as well as talked about real estate, getting off the corporate plantation, all of that. So maybe, if we do another one, you can join us. I don't have any planned right now, but we are going to do the All Black National Convention in October, which is going to be at the Marriott Marquis Hotel in Atlanta. So just go to boycewatkins.com and you can find information about all of that stuff. So my father, who is a cop, I remember my father was warning me about life. And he wasn't warning me just about the terrible things white people can do to you, racist white people. Um, he he actually was warning me about things that even black people can do to you. He was preparing me for the fact that most black men that he and I know who've been killed were not killed by a white supremacist. They weren't killed by a cop. They weren't killed by, a Karen. They were killed by another black person. They were killed by another black person. So effectively, I remember him telling me, and he wasn't talking specifically about laying down with women, but he was talking about just life in general. And one thing he said is that if you're a person that has something to lose, you shouldn't be spending a lot of time around people who have nothing to lose. And I think he was talking specifically about men dealing with other men. Like if you're in the projects, hanging out in the hood, you try to be a gangster like John Morant, and you got a $300 million contract on your head, but yet you're sitting next to somebody who's got nothing to lose. Well, then you're playing a game that you probably shouldn't play. You're playing a game that you really can't play properly because when it all comes down to it, putting it all on the line, they're putting $20 on the line. You putting 300 million on the line. They're betting nothing. You're betting everything. And here's the other thing too, though. I take what my father said and I can apply that to sex as well, and who you choose to spend time with in relationships. One of the things that does happen, and this is something your sons have to understand, is that there's something about money that makes men attractive. I don't think money makes women as attractive as men, even though you do have some men out here that are interested in women that have money. I know a lot of black women who have wealth and education and all that, who have guys that want to hang out with them because they can get access to their money. My friend calls them hobosexuals, hobosexuals. These are men that look for women that have money, because that in this so-called modern society, the gender roles have been kind of switched, and the men have turned into women and the women are turning into men, and it's just kind of crazy, especially in our community. It's really ridiculous. So anyway, in fact, one of my friends who went to Harvard, who made like hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, dated this guy, this good looking guy who basically came and slept on her couch, and he'd use her credit cards and to buy stuff for other women. It's kind of weird, kind of pathetic. That's not normal where I come from, but that's the world we kind of live in now. But anyway, the thing is that money does make people attractive, especially men. And what can happen, I think, is that for men, it becomes like an ego booster. You kind of get excited because because they show up offering all the goodies and all the things that you want as a man. And I'm not judging that. That's just life. But what you don't understand is that sometimes, like my friend D1, who's a great rapper, he's actually at Harvard right now. He has a saying where he says the devil can bless you too. And sometimes the devil is blessing you. Sometimes you got a gift, but you think it's a gift, but it's actually a curse. And I can tell you this, that sometimes that gift, so-called gift of having any woman that you want, can turn into a curse. Look at R. Kelly. Look at where R. Kelly's wealth, fame, and good looks got him. Wealth, fame, good looks, and talent. He had wealth, fame, good looks, and talent. He could sing a woman's panties off in a second. Next thing you know, R. Kelly has these peculiar tastes in women. And after that, and this is the part that they don't talk about in the documentaries, parents are delivering their 16, 17-year-old daughters to this man. I don't get me wrong. R. Kelly's responsible for his choices, but Lord Jesus, you crazy. It takes a village to rape a child. It does. In some cases, it takes a village to rape a child. And everybody wants to act like he did this all by himself. No, there were enablers everywhere around him, including the parents of some of these women. That's what was really going on. So R. Kelly is sort of led into this false sense of security. I've seen it happen a million times. This false sense of security that he can just do whatever he wants. Well, because why? Well, because he's R. Kelly. He can sing his ass off. He got $1 million in the bank. He's world famous. Everybody loves him. He thinks he's never going to get caught. Well, then when the consequences come knocking, and you're sitting up in prison, on suicide watch, thinking about the fact that there's a good chance you'll spend the rest of your life in jail over this. You reflect on your life and you realize that everything you thought was a gift was actually a curse. And sometimes the thing that you think is a curse is actually a gift. The curse or the curse/gift that R. Kelly should have received should have been somebody slapping him in his face, taking away all his money and forcing him to get the help that he needed. That man did not need more women. That man did not need more money. He did not need more fame. He did not need another record deal. He needed a therapist. R. Kelly needed a damn therapist. But instead, people just kept feeding the beast, feeding the beast, feeding the beast, feeding the beast, feeding the beast. 20 years later, people are like, oh my God, how did this happen? Well, I could have told you this was going to happen in 2002. I talked about this in 2002. I'm OG status now. I'm 51, so I'm not a kid no more. I was talking about this in 2002. Just wasn't a lot of people listening back then. A lot of people didn't know who I was. I was on the faculty of Syracuse University, and I said, this man is sick. This man is sick. And so as a community, though, in fact, I remember specifically about 2003, right after people started seeing what R. Kelly was doing, the whole world kind of knew it. I was at Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Push convention, and I was taking a leak next to a guy in the bathroom, taking a leak next to a guy who was the head of director of programming at, I think it was WGCI perhaps, but it may not be WGCI, but one of the big radio stations in Chicago. And I remember asking him, I said, I don't understand. You were boycotting R. Kelly last week, but now y'all playing his music this week. And I remember he said, well, he is talented. He is talented. Okay. Okay. Sometimes you let that talent blind you. You let that white man money blind you. So the white man takes some black guy, gives sprinkles him with money and fame and power and women and all that, and next thing you know, you're in a place you don't want to be. So my point is not to shame this guy. I started off talking about Israel Adesanya, and I want to make sure I get back on point. I apologize, everybody, because I sometimes I just start going on a stream of consciousness. But this is where it started. Israel Adesanya is a guy who's an MMA fighter, whose girlfriend, living girlfriend, allegedly, according to Israel on his Instagram, is trying to get half his assets, not for being his wife, not because she had a bunch of his babies, not because she spent any time in the ring getting her face knocked off like he did, but just because she was his girlfriend and she feels entitled to that. Um, I would almost say to him too. I don't know how old he is. Let me Google him. Actually, let me Google and see how old he is. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, share, subscribe. Let me see here. How old is Israel? Okay, he's 33 years old. Okay, so he's at a stage where he's still learning certain lessons about life. And one of the things that I think that men don't have enough conversations about is choices in women and how that can literally undermine everything you work for. I think that we advocate for a tremendous amount of discipline and work ethic when it comes to acquiring, fame, fortune, championships, just kind of winning whatever it is. But we don't really speak enough about discipline and strategy. And everybody's guilty of it. Everybody, people act like women are not powerful. Shit, women are incredibly powerful. Women can. Steve Harvey said, "Women, your woman is like an elevator. She can take you way up, or she can bring you way down." And so, this idea of women being these innocent victims of men and all this other stuff—that's a narrative I just refuse because that's not true. Anybody who understands the power of a woman knows that in some of these cases, the woman is not the victim; it's the man that's the victim. It's the woman is not the one being abused; it's the man's the one being abused. The subtle part of it, the challenge is that typically a woman's abuse does not come in the form of a fist to the face. Women are not typically masculine and aggressive like that. Women don't take out their frustrations always, some with some exceptions, of course. But when they're frustrated, they don't necessarily destroy you by trying to pick you up and throw you out the window or put your head up against against the brick wall. But there are very powerful ways that women can use her tongue or whatever it is to destroy you. She can make up rumors about you. She can say things in every single day in your ear that are just deflating and demoralizing. And one of the things that I think that we don't talk about enough as a community is how many little black boys unfortunately grow up with an anger toward women because they had this dominant, abusive, mean ass mother who just oppressed their masculinity at every available turn, emasculated them in every way. So I just think even the mothers, you got to be careful about how you deal with your sons. Some of y'all either beat them down into the ground, or you spoil the hell out of them, right? One or the other. That's why I think that there is a meaning behind the masculine feminine balance that's required to properly raise a child. But some of y'all ain't ready for that conversation. Some of y'all are taking it personal. Some of you may get offended, and that's fine. I understand, but I can't say that I care that much because you see it all around you. You see it all around you. And so, with this guy, one of the things I would say that you can learn from this Israel Adesanya situation is this. Here's one simple practical reality that I can share with you. From this is Uncle Boyce / Dr. Boyce talking. Take it for what it's worth. Take it or leave it. One thing I learned after myself spending a few years as a public figure who had lots of money. I'm a financial expert, so it's not like and I think my net worth was on some website on Celebrity Net Worth or something. So as a person who's been in that position for a while, one thing I learned is that it is typically easier if you have something to lose, if you have resources to connect with people that also have resources, because it becomes like the way nuclear war is avoided is what they call mutually assured destruction or something like that. And it's basically like if you run into somebody where you're scared of them taking what you have, but they're also afraid of you taking what they have, then everybody just kind of protects what they have. If you are hanging out with somebody where you got something to lose and they got something to lose, then you both kind of agree, like, okay, don't start none, won't be none. I won't mess with you. You don't mess with me. Even if you're sleeping around with somebody, if you're sleeping around with somebody who has nothing to lose, then you're going to have a big problem because if you walk away, that person may be so upset, and if they've got nothing to lose, they say, well, I'm going to destroy you because I ain't got nothing. You took away the one valuable thing I had, so now I'm going to take away everything you got. There are people who go into that, that almost like a murder suicide mindset where it's like, because you took something away from me and you broke my heart and you made me upset, I'm going to destroy everything you've got. And so people who have a lot to lose, people who are on their way to becoming wealthy, millionaires, whatever it is, you just got to understand that. I think and it kind of sucks. It's not fair. I mean, you want to, maybe you have some certain beliefs that tell you that, you don't want to judge people by what they have and what they don't have. And I don't think you should. But when it comes to who you put in your life, you got to be careful because you might be dropping a suicide bomber right in the middle of your empire, and whereas, they're going to blow everything up. And what are some examples? Well, examples you might see on the internet might be scenarios of where a guy might or a woman sleeps with somebody who's got nothing to lose, and then the relationship ends, and the person does nothing wrong. They just say, "Hey, look, I don't want to date you no more." And then the other person's so pissed off about it that they realize, "Oh, I've got this valuable asset. My asset is that I slept with so and so. Now I got a story to tell." And technically, it's my story. That's where the superheads come from. Corinne Steffens. Anybody know superheads? Corinne Steffens. Give me a guess if you know about Corinne Steffens. Corinne Steffens made millions of dollars writing a book detailing her sexual exploits with famous men. And I'm willing to bet you that a lot of these men did not want to be in her book. But you know what? Um, you didn't want to be in her book, but you were glad to be in her mouth, right? You don't want to be in her book, but you're glad to be in her mouth. So now you're going to be in her mouth for the rest of your life. Your name's going to be in her mouth until all eternity. And she's going to make $1 million off of that. So what I would say to you is, if you don't want her name in your mouth, then don't put anything in her mouth. There are other women that, are probably just as talented as she is, not to get too graphic here, but y'all know what I'm talking about, who are, corporate executives or attorneys or medical doctors who don't want to build their reputation on how well they serve men in the bedroom, right? So these are women that might have been a more appropriate choice for you. Again, I'm not judging what people do. I know people have sex. I mean, let's stop acting like people don't do it. Half y'all probably did some freaky stuff last night, and it's okay. I'm not judging. That's how human beings are born. I don't know why we stigmatize that the way we do. It's very strange. None of us would be here if somebody wasn't sleeping with somebody else. But seriously, though, I think that part of your strategy, part of your wealth protection strategy has to be how you go about choosing who you spend personal time with. I don't care who you are. I don't care how powerful you are. I don't care how much money you got. If you let somebody in your bedroom, you're making yourself vulnerable. And this isn't just true for men. This is also true for women. A lot of women have had their lives ruined by having the wrong man in their life. Even when you go back to that conversation last week, anybody follow that whole conversation about would you date a bus driver? Last week, everybody was talking about that, right? Would you date a bus driver? Well, here's the thing, right? I didn't agree with Ebony Williams in terms of eliminating all bus drivers from consideration just because they drive a bus. But at the same time, I understand her having her own preferences and her own standards. I think that's okay too. But one of the things that I think we have to sort of process is that some people think that by you having certain standards based on what you have to lose, that somehow you're being elitist or you're being a snob. And I can just tell you that I've seen people who were trying very hard to be so down to earth that they ended up ruining themselves in the process. One example might be Tupac Shakur. Tupac Shakur, if Tupac were alive, Tupac would be a billionaire just like Dr. Dre. Snoop's going to eventually be a billionaire. Ice Cube's on his way to being a billionaire. Ice Cube's a friend of mine. He's come been on this platform a couple of times. I like Ice Cube a lot. So you got a lot of hip hop. Diddy's already a billionaire. Jay-Z's a billionaire. Tupac would have been a billionaire too. But Tupac, in my view, lost his $1 billion brand because he was trying to, he's trying to keep it real. He's trying to sort of prove that even though I'm famous and I'm making records and making millions of dollars, I'm still going to be a street dude. And I believe that that's part of what got him killed. I think that, again, he was a person that had a lot to lose, who was spending time with people who had nothing to lose. And I just don't understand the idea of being a $1 billion gangbanger. It just doesn't compute. It doesn't make sense. And then another example, a friend of mine just called me not long ago, like 2 weeks ago, and told me about a friend of hers who was a high flying Black woman who did really well, who was making a ton of money, millions of dollars. And she married a guy who wasn't at her level, economically, professionally, none of that. In fact, he worked like she was the CEO of the company and he worked like 3 layers down from her. But she was attracted to him and she was taught not to judge, so she didn't judge. So she starts dating this guy. Instantly his life elevates. Instantly she does what any loving woman does. She wants, she pushes him to improve and start his own business and all that. He had gotten off drugs. She didn't judge him for his past, right? Because he was into drugs. Well, drugs are a funny thing. He turned back into drugs, right? So eventually he starts using again. And he starts doing really crazy stuff. He starts to beat her up. He ruins the business. He ruins all his money. And then he wants a big chunk of her money. And she eventually wisens up. This is after years of being with this guy, by the way. She wises up and says, I'm done with you. I'm out of here. I'm gone. Well, one day he lures her back to the house and asks her to come back and, hey, I want to talk to you. Well, he planned to kill her. He had a gun. And his attitude was, well, if I can't have none, then ain't nobody gonna have nothing. So literally, she's running from this man who's shooting at her, and she ran back in the house to try to get the keys to the car. And that's when he shot through the door as she's getting in the car. The bullet goes in her body. That's the one that took her life. So literally, she lost her life because she didn't want to be a snob. She lost her life because she was trying to be a good person. And now, again, this does not completely justify that Ebony K. Williams statement about, I wouldn't date a bus driver, because most bus drivers aren't going to hurt anybody, right? So let's just be clear. This is not an indictment on all working class people, because that would be crazy. But what it speaks to is that sometimes God gives you information because you're supposed to use it. Sometimes the writing is on the wall and you have to read it, whether you want to read it or not. Sometimes people show you who they are, and we don't want to believe it because I don't want to be judgmental. Maybe you're supposed to be judging at that moment. When it comes to my life, I'm going to tell you this. What I've learned over time is that when it comes to the effect you're going to have on my life, I'm supposed to be judgmental. I'm going to be Judge Judy up in there. I'm going to be Judge Mathis, Judge Joe Brown. I'm going to be all of that. I'm going to be Judge, Jiggity Judge when it comes to things that affect my life. I'm not going to just let anything around me just because I don't want to be a snob. I don't want to be whatever. No, I don't want to be stupid either. And the reality is that when you talk about, and again, we started off talking about Israel Adesanya. This guy, if it's true what he said, he's an MMA champion and all this stuff. Boxing sucks because boxing gives you brain damage. This dude literally got brain damage to make his money. And this girlfriend is literally walking up in here like, I deserve half, at least according to him. That's what he said on Instagram. He's saying, I deserve half your money just for being your girlfriend. Not because I married you, not because we had kids, none of that. Just because I was a good girlfriend, I deserve half. that is, as a man, that's completely foreign to me. I cannot imagine dating any woman for any amount of time and walking away from the relationship thinking I deserve any percentage of the money that she has. This is uniquely, honestly, this is uniquely a woman thing. Most good women don't even think this way. So I can't even put this on all women. This is trifling women, women that ain't got nothing going on, and I think that what again, what I think he didn't understand, it's like Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods is going through the same thing. Anybody seen the Tiger Woods thing where his girlfriend is suing him for 30 million? Well, why is that? Well, because Tiger Woods was the best thing she had going on. She didn't have nothing without Tiger. She was broke without Tiger. So when you are like wealthy, especially if you're wealthy and prominent, famous, even whether you're talking about somebody who's world famous, all the way down to somebody who might just be the mega pastor at a local church, you got to realize that when you are just sort of mingling in the lives of other people, it's not the same for you as it is for them. Like, for example, if you and I go to the grocery store, imagine if you go to the grocery store and you see Oprah. Would that be a big deal? Like, would that kind of get your attention? Give me a yes or no. This is an exercise, like a psychological exercise. If you saw Oprah in the grocery store, would that be a big deal? Like, would you say, "Wow, look, there's Oprah, right? She's buying carrots, right?" And you would pay attention to every little thing that Oprah did. Like, oh, she bought carrots, and then she didn't have enough money, so she had to go back in her wallet and get another credit card because her credit card got whatever, right? You would remember every single thing about this interaction with Oprah. But so let's say years later you see Oprah, and or make it your favorite celebrity. You pick somebody. It could be Ti or something, I don't care what it is, right? So years later, you would remember this. You would remember this for the rest of your life because that's the day you saw Oprah in the grocery store. Oprah ain't gonna remember seeing you in the grocery store. She could have had a 5-minute conversation with you, and she ain't gonna remember it because she goes to the grocery store all the time. It's not a big deal for her. And I see sort of like this you know casual sex the same way in some ways. I think when we talk about celebrities, especially celebrity men, they sleep around a lot and they get involved with a lot of different women because they feel like that is like part of the spoils of success. And again, I'm not judging it, but it's like for him, it's no big deal. You're one in 800 women he's going to sleep with over that decade or whatever. But for some of those women, it's a big deal. It's like, oh my God, I slept with Drake or I slept with Barack Obama or whatever, right? And they keep that, right? So what then happens is you're kind of like, okay, on to the next one. Like, okay, thank you. It was a night. We had a great weekend together. Now I'm moving on with my life. And some people are like, no, you're not. You're not going anywhere. Like I'm not, you're the best thing that ever happened to me. Like that song, no, 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 no way. I'm living without you. You the best thing I've ever known. Right? So you have some people that have that mindset that says, no, where you going? You made promises to me. We spent, we spent 2 whole weeks together, and we traveled together, and we told each other secrets, and we shared intimate conversations. And I am upset with you right now because you abandoning me reminds me of the pain I've had my whole entire life since my father left when I was 5. So I might show up and kill you, or even worse, I might just decide you're a bad person and that I should just, I should just make an accusation to get your attention, or perhaps if I'm not that crazy, maybe I'll just, decide that because you're such a bad person, I'm going to tell your wife and I'm going to tell the media what's going on, or maybe because I need money, I'm going to sell my story to some magazine, right? I think that in general um, I think these things have to be processed, right? Especially if you talk about a guy like Israel Adesanya, who is a world champion boxer. And as somebody says, are you speaking from experience? Some of it's from experience, yes. Oh, I got sued by an ex-girlfriend one time, and it was very sad for me because I didn't feel like it was right. I said, let's go our separate ways. It's over. And she didn't feel that way, and it wasn't fair, but that's life. I paid the money and it's like, okay, let's get it over with. Right. But in general, so speaking from experience to some extent, yes. But at the same time, they have a saying that says a smart man learns from his own mistakes. A wise man learns from the mistakes of others. So most of my life, I like to think I've made strategic decisions. You know, but then again, I'm not a normal person, right? I'm not an athlete. I'm not a rapper. I'm a college professor. So you get paid to think. I've made my money my entire life by thinking about things and processing information. So I think constantly. It's an addiction. I process everything. And what I would encourage you to do is consider that. You know, man, you got to think when you make decisions in your life, you have to think. And again, you don't even have to be rich and famous for this to happen. Your son, if your son goes and works for a corporation, any corporation, and women are at the job throwing their panties at him, he has to think about that because the wrong situation can cause him to lose everything. Just sleeping with somebody and not reporting it to HR. Which think about this: how many people really go to it? Think about this is what's crazy about this whole like stigmatizing workplace relationships. Every study on earth shows that the people you're most attracted to are people that you spend the most time with. Psychologists call this the proximity effect. Your proximity, your closeness to other people, physical closeness, the amount of time you spend with them, going through ups and downs with them, complaining about work with them, getting a drink afterward, all these things affect your attraction. So it's insane to me that we really think we can sterilize society enough that people can work in an office together 40 hours a week and not have some of those people get attracted to each other or always have to report it to HR. So some of these relationships, it's easy, right? If you meet your wife on the job, you report it to HR. It's not a problem. Maybe if you have a long-term relationship, you report it to HR. But what if you just, what if you don't want everybody to know? What if you don't want to announce it to everybody? What if it's unsanctioned, interaction? Then you keep it to yourself, and then next thing you know, it gets revealed, and then suddenly people are talking about you like you're a predator, especially if you're a black man. You look at Ime Udoka, who played for the or who was the coach of the Celtics. Y'all remember Ime Udoka? Ime Udoka was this tall, handsome man who probably has had his share of women. He's been a millionaire for a long time. He was a former NBA player. He's a good-looking man, and so the white women are throwing their panties at him, and Ime Udoka is catching all these panties. And next thing you know, Ime Udoka ends up looking like a predator. He ends up literally being put out in the public as if he is like Jack the Ripper. And I kind of think that's a result of the society we live in, where a man who's doing the same thing that a lot of women will do, right? No one, ends up being stigmatized in a way that I don't think is fundamentally fair. I just don't. Not to say Ime was a good guy, not to say, yeah, I mean, he was dating Nia Long, and yeah, you're not supposed to cheat. Okay, fine, but that's between him and Nia. And this idea that somehow he is so terrible that he doesn't deserve to have a career anymore. Think about this. You have worked 30 years for your career. So I would have two separate conversations with Ime and his accusers, whatever that means. With Ime, I would say, what are you doing? Like, is it really worth it? Like, do you have an addiction to vaginas? Like, can't you find some other way to, have your experiences without it disrupting your job? Like, why are you shitting where you eat? That's what I would say to Ime, like just holding him accountable for his part in all this. But then I would turn to society. I would turn to the accusers and say, well, look at all these women. Look at all these women. Okay, you're calling Ime all these names for what he did. Are these women being called hoes? For the fact that they probably didn't have to necessarily be persuaded to sleep with him. What about the one? What about this one? I see the text messages. She was throwing herself at him. So what about her? What about her? Is she going to get that same label? And she's not. Right? Why? Well, because you live in a world where the black man is viewed differently from everybody else. But you also live in a world where men are viewed differently from women. Somehow we've decided that we have a society that should be based on equality, but somehow in the midst of this pseudo equality, we still decide that women are these innocent little victims that are constantly manipulated by these men who just are constantly outsmarting them and all these other things, right? And all of this is a little confusing to me because you can't be a super strong person one minute and then become this damsel in distress in the other minute. It just sort of switching roles based on how convenient that is for you. And this is really true for white women. I think, I mean, don't get me wrong. Some black women can take advantage of that, right? But for the most part, this is a white woman phenomenon 1 minute it's like, I am woman, hear me roar. I can do anything a man can do. Then the next minute it's like, oh, he tricked me. He fooled me into having sex. I feel like he was tricking me, and he talked me into it, and he didn't, and I didn't want to do it, but I did it anyway because it happened in 1982, and I don't have any evidence or proof, and I want you to go take all his money and destroy his whole career. That's crazy to me, but that's society. That's the society you live in. So this is also one of the reasons, by the way, that I believe every Black boy should be taught to have his own business. I don't think Black boys do well when they become Black men. I don't think they do well in mainstream society. I don't think society really has much of a place for you. And then when you start going and you playing in the snow like that, then you're really gonna have some problems. So I wish him the best. I hope he doesn't lose half his stuff. It kind of sucks to go and get your face beat in for 5-10 years and make all this money and then have somebody just take it just because you were dating them. I think that's terrible. I think if a man did that to a woman, I would absolutely shame that man. I would say, what the hell's wrong with you, man? Like, why would you take her money? Like, she worked for that money. That's her money. But that's the game. That's how the game is played. So be very careful. Remember, asset protection is not just about, wills and trusts and estate plans and insurance. Asset protection means protecting it from anybody who might have an incentive to take what you got. And that's really the part of finance and money that you're never going to see in any textbook. They don't talk about that because they want to believe that people are fair, and that's just not true in this world. So anyway, guys, that's my 2 cents. Thank you so much for listening. By the way, this podcast is also on Spotify. So if you go to Spotify, look up my name, Boyce Watkins, you will find it. If you're new, I am a finance professor and I'm the founder of the Black Business School. And my website is boycewatkins.com. So I've got lots of free resources there if you want to go take a look. And last but not least, the All Black National Convention is happening October 20th in Atlanta, Georgia at the Marriott Marquis Hotel. So if you'd like to hang out with a lot of other Black first oriented people that are intelligent and love each other and want to build and want to grow and want to develop strong families and are tired of the nonsense out here, feel free to join us at the All Black National Convention. You can go to allblacknationalconvention.com, or you can also go to my website, boycewatkins.com. So take care, guys. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you soon. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones too late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to co-sign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.